Welcome to our LinkedIn Live viewers. I am Rudy Nieto, CEO of MavSign. Thank you for joining our seventh broadcast on Freaky Friday Halloween. I see I'm joined by my guest Karl Falk on mute. What's up, Karl? How you doing?
Wait a minute. This isn't Rudy. This isn't Rudy.
Yeah, no. Hey, it's me. It's Rudy. This is my office. Look, everybody knows where
I don't know. I think
this
this might be a fraudster. It doesn't look like Rudy.
I am so insulted. How could you even say that? You know
No.
what? Look, fine. You know what? No problem. Let me send you a copy. I'm going to text it to you. That's secure. I'm going to text you a copy of my driver's license to prove who I am. See?
You know, Rudy,
are you satisfied?
That might fly at an auto dealership, but it definitely wouldn't work at a bank. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, all right. You got me. All right, guys. Happy Halloween, everybody. That was funny. Come on.
That's right. That's a way to kick off Halloween Friday.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Karl. Karl is the CEO of BotDoc. He's been a friend of mine for some period of time. Karl, just to give a brief background of you, I'm probably not going to do it justice, but for starters, you have a lot going on with the Air Force. So why don't you take us from there and talk about what you're dressing up as for Halloween?
I do. So my Halloween costume today is Air Force. So yes, I was in the Air Force. I did graduate from the Air Force Academy. I played football there, and my son Alec is actually playing football. He's the starting left guard right now for Air Force. And so for today, I am and it is also Air Force Army tomorrow. So this is a big week. Big rivalry. So I am this is not actually my helmet when I play. We only had the white helmets. We didn't have cool stuff like this. So gotcha. I would put it on, but it's a little tight. So today
I don't know how that happened, Karl. You look just like you did 20 years ago.
I did, right? Yeah, where my face was stuffed into the helmet. So today I'm an Air Force football player. So go awesome. Air Force and beat Army. So if there's any Army fans listening, I'm sorry, but go Air Force.
Awesome. All right. Well, fast forward to now. So Karl has been in the Colorado Springs area for a long period of time. And part of the reason Karl is on the show with us today is, we're always here to talk about what's going on in fraud, not specific to one company or the other, but what are the things that are happening in the dealerships that are causing them to lose and making it harder for the upstanding consumers of the world to do business with car dealers. And so Karl and I have known each other for a while, and where he comes in is it's the perspective of how he approaches dealers fighting fraud that I find really unique. So whereas my company, MavSign, we focus on how to protect dealers from fraud, protecting consumers from fraud, because they're going to have a financial loss due to the loss of the asset or any potential lawsuits from the consumer. Karl comes from a totally different perspective that is so complementary to what we do. It was kind of like a light bulb went off when we last talked. So Karl, talk to us about FTC safeguards and the 16 things and the one thing we're missing. Yeah. Like, give me all that. And then we kind of arrived at kind of the same place at the end of our discussion.
Yeah. And here's what I'll tell you, like nobody wants to sit and have a conversation on a Friday about FTC safeguards. And honestly, I hate this, the FTC, but they're there for a reason. And the real reason is if you take the underlying, it's cybersecurity, hands down. That's it. And if you really think about it, automotive had never been regulated for cybersecurity. And the reason, I don't know why it's taken so long. If you think about banks, healthcare, right. HIPAA in healthcare, all the banking regulation, even education has FERPA, which is the protection of information.
Yeah, I can see my daughter's grades.
Yeah, right. And all the test scores and personal information, all that stuff is protected, right? And the fact that automotive had never had anything in place is a little bit, dumbfounding, because like for our company, we've been in banking for over a decade. So community banks, credit unions, large companies like Edward Jones, Ally Financial, right? So they've had their information protected for a long time. So What's interesting is in the automotive space, when we first got pulled into it, is we started getting calls from automotive dealerships. So that would have been I think it was originally supposed to go into place in 22. So I think it was in 21, even before the original date. We were starting to get phone calls from some larger groups saying, "Hey, we're trying to figure out how to solve some of the problems and how do we do this." But I'll tell you the biggest issue that we see right now at dealerships, and this is something that our tech solves, but the biggest issue, and I get it. Most dealerships sitting there going, "Karl, I don't care. I just want to sell cars. I want to sell cars, service cars, and make money." But the biggest thing that'll derail your company is some kind of ransomware attack or a customer's information getting exposed, and it's getting exposed a lot right now, and it's all over text and email. That is probably the biggest challenge for a dealership today, because if you look at the 16 points of the FTC safeguards rule, it is really just kind of a guideline. Here's the things that you need to do to be compliant, but it's not necessarily everything you need to be secure. And that's a difference. And Rudy, I know you and I have talked about that quite a bit. And the challenge is when it is a cultural change. And the things that are cultural changes are the things that are a challenge, because you can hire somebody to put policies in place and run scans and do all this stuff in the background. But when you start talking about all your employees doing something different, that's not easy, right? I mean, think about both of our companies, Rudy. Getting them to do habitual things differently, that's not something that can be fixed overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the number one thing, if you look at the FTC safeguards rule, there's only one item on there that is a cultural change,
Which
is the actual requirement is end-to-end encryption over external networks. But really what that means is when your salespeople are emailing and texting with your customers, you have to assume that all of that information can be intercepted and read by third parties that are not a party to that conversation or transaction. Okay. That's how all text and email works today. There are unsecured handoffs. Even if your people said, "Well, hold on, but we can use iMessage," right? So some of our clients have iPhone, which, okay, that is encrypted. But what happens when the salesperson has to get that information off of their phone? They have to download that information, save it to their photos, and then email it to themselves at the dealership, download it on the computer, and either print it or whatever the dealership process is.
Wait, and so you're assuming that's a dealership property phone. If it's their personal phone, then it's downloaded, it's uploaded into their personal cloud.
And we all know that. Got it. Yeah, and we know every salesperson's phone is their personal phone, right? They don't get company phones, and even if they were company phones, you have the same issue, right? You have a break in that encryption custody. So herein lies the challenge. Is how do you fix that issue? And how many people do you know whose phones aren't backed up in the cloud, or their photos aren't shared with their family? And Rudy, what's could also
be in GPT now. Just keep that in mind.
Well, correct. What's the turnover rate? What's the average turnover rate in automotive?
30%.
Yeah, I've seen stuff in some areas it's 50-60% sales staff turnover. So think about how many people were at your dealership that left and went to other dealerships, and then vice versa, where other dealerships that came to your dealership, and all that proliferation of contact information,
Right.
or all those sensitive items. We actually, I'm going to tell you this story. This is actually we've been having some fun with this, and really it's to help the dealerships understand this, because I want anybody on this call to go to their bank and apply for a loan and say, hey, can I just text you my bank statements or my tax returns? Or no, it doesn't happen. So if your bank won't do it, it means you shouldn't be doing it either. So this is what we've been doing. In applause to our sales team on the automotive side. Actually, this is Paul Crowshaw's idea. He was with J&A for a long time. I think you've met Paul before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he leads up all our automotive sales, and what he did is he went to a couple of dealerships that he knew the ownership, and he said, "Let me do something." And he took a $50 bill and went into their sales meeting, and he said, "Hey, I got a $50 bill. This is a competition, and whoever and I want you to raise your hands. Whoever has the most consumer, IDs or information on their phone and their photo camera history is going to win the $50." So there was there was nobody sitting back going, maybe I shouldn't say anything. And literally like, oh, look at this. There's got to be hundreds, right? And just flipping through, and like 3/4 of the images were driver's license, insurance, STIPs, etc. And he looks at the ownership and he says, you have a problem. I mean, it's a good sales tactic, but at the end of the day, I don't think dealerships understand how big of an issue this is. And yeah, it's one little small piece. Does it help me sell more cars? Well, the way we've structured, I think it will. But at the end of the day, if you're exposing consumer information that's wrong, you're going to have problems.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I would say most dealers have that issue today. I mean, now obviously, like, there's a couple ways to do it, right? Like you could create it to where, you have apps where you can't, do screenshots that capture it, right? That prevent that kind of thing. Or you could do what y'all designed, which is kind of a secure transport system. But the reality of the matter is, those secure systems are being used as an exception, not the rule today. And every dealer is exposing themselves, not just so the challenge is this: you're exposing yourself to FTC regulation. And I think most people don't understand that the FTC and CFPB are two totally different things. So maybe talk about that real quick, what that means. Because I think we all have, I just was on the Hill earlier this week and talking about how CFPB is kind of neutered a little bit. It's not going away. But the FTC is still fully funded and has the same charter that they have, correct?
Right. Yeah, and it boils down to different regulations, right? So you've got the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right, is out there looking out for the best interest of the consumer. Hopefully, we hope. So a lot of times they're looking at language and disclosures and making sure that a dealership's checking all the boxes and all that annoying stuff, right? That when attorneys start getting involved, it becomes a mess, right? It's like the language on a preparation H bottle that says "do not take orally," right? It's because somebody that made a stupid mistake, and now everyone, every bottle has to have a disclosure or disclaimer, and all the above. So you get into that situation, but then you have the FTC that is looking at more about how do we protect our country, our consumers, and also the businesses. So as an example, everyone knows that there was a major automotive software provider that went offline because of the cybersecurity issue.
Right.
That's what the FTC is trying to protect our country against. The U.S. government literally has said that we do not have the resources nor the capability to protect the U.S. citizen from cyber attacks. Their financials, their information, all the above. So we need industry to step in and help as well. And when the FTC safeguards went into rule, it was the last frontier. Literally, if you think about it, because you've got education that had been had guidelines for protecting consumer information and cybersecurity. Banking has been forever. HIPAA's been forever as well for healthcare.
Right.
And if you think about all the information that automotive has, it's basically a bank. You have all the same things that a bank would have if somebody was applying for a loan.
Yeah. Well, and to be accurate, if a dealer is making decisions on which banks to send loans to when they submit credit applications, they are acting as the bank. So
yeah, absolutely.
Rules.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's like caption this like dealers, you are held to the same standards as a bank. Period. End of story. Full stop. So yeah, I think what you said in the beginning is if a bank wouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it.
Correct.
Right? If you're doing it and the bank says don't. So, I mean, just to mention that for me. So let's just say we're not even talking about the cyber attack and shutting your business down, but what's the FTC fine for having something exposed and unencrypted in transit?
Yes, actually, I have it right here.
Oh, it's a lot of money.
$50,000. It's a little over $50,000, but this is what in per incident. This is the maximum fine that the FTC can fine an institution per incident, not per violation or whatever, per incident. So if the FTC wanted to, the easiest thing that they could do is subpoena phone records from every employee at that dealership between this date and this date. Now, having a conversation with a customer, nothing wrong with that. And I know a lot of the loyalty dealerships have repeat customers all the time, right? And they have a relationship with that salesperson. There's nothing wrong with that. But the instant you start asking for a social security number, a social security card, even a driver's license, yes. And in those of you that don't know, with a driver's license, well, you should know because you have the tools to do it. With a driver's license, you can get a lot of information. It's basically the information needed for a soft pull. And then you can get credit information, which you can get social security numbers, and you can get et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a protected document. A lot of times we actually did a study, and this is what was interesting. Years ago, we rolled out initial version of our software that was integrated inside some of the CRMs. It was traffic off of a website, and we actually did some A/B testing, and a consumer was more apt to give their license more so than they were their like a picture of their insurance card, which is crazy to think, right? So that means even the consumer's like, oh yeah, here's my license, but by actually providing their insurance, like a picture of their insurance card wasn't there was a little bit of a holdback there. So, but anyway, my point here is this is what one incident could be. So a single consumer engagement with, a text with sensitive information in it is an incident. So is the FTC going to come in and say, hey, you have 3,000 whatever images with consumer information over your employees' personal phones over that time period? Because they can subpoena that information. And as we know, nothing ever exists or nothing ever goes away. So can the FTC absolutely do that? Yes. And can they multiply that number by $50,000? Yes, they can. Now, that number would bankrupt a dealership. So they're not going to do that. But it's a negotiation point.
Right.
And they're going to say, great, I can't fine you $500 million, but there's going to be a number that hurts.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I mean, I assume most dealers that have already been hit by the FTC are not going to go tell anybody about it. But I mean, have you been known of some yourself, like that you've been exposed, that you've seen, been exposed to that?
So the FTC, no, not yet. not specifically for this. Cyber attacks, ransomware, etc., on individual groups. It's happening every month, every week. So that's where you got to go back. So let me back up. So the FTC, if we look at HIPAA, when HIPAA went into place in the 90s, it was 3-4 years ish before the FTC dropped a hammer. And they dropped massive, and you can go Google this, go research it. They dropped massive hammers on major healthcare groups who were not following the regulations. So the fact that dealerships still aren't in line with everything is status quo with healthcare, right? But it's going to take the FTC dropping a hammer and unfortunately making an example of groups, and it probably will be larger groups, unfortunately. They're going to have to make an example before the industry actually makes a change. And that's nothing unique to automotive. I think it's just because the way it is. It's the exact same way it was in healthcare until the industry actually took notice. But you have to understand the intent. The intent of the FTC is not, hey, we're a bunch of jerks and we just like to find people for doing they didn't check this box or this disclosure. No, this is totally different. This is different than the CFPB. This is a cybersecurity effort, right? To ensure, because our country cannot defend our consumers, our U.S. Americans on their own from cyber criminals who are in other countries most of the time. So the government had to do something to say, industry, we need you to do your part. And the only way to enforce that is to threaten fines. Otherwise, people won't do it. And that's the crux of the issue. And that cyber crime, those cyber criminals, that's fraud. They're trying to grab that information to use it for fraudulent purposes. Hence the reason you and I talk all the time. Right. Because when they have that information, they're gonna use it for monetary reasons. Now, sometimes it's just pay a ransom and we'll give it back to you. But a lot of the time, it's stealing consumer information and using it for fraudulent purposes. And I think every dealership listening to this understands that there is the potential for drive-offs or remote deals where you're selling cars to people that don't exist. Right.
Okay, so you can lose. FTC can get in your pocket.
Yep.
And then the actual crooks can get in your pocket through cyber by not having appropriate policies and procedures. And then let's say you got through those first two gauntlets. On top of that, now you have actual fraudsters who are like ID fraudsters who we deal with. That also, if you haven't properly, looked at the driver's license and verified it and getting a second form of ID and really done a full verification, there's also loss there. So that's how it comes full circle for me. So we come at it from the opposite perspective, which is, hey, we prevent fraud, period, end of story. That's a net loss for the dealer. But there's a couple other different kinds of loss that the dealer can be protecting against by having a good fraud prevention process. You're not only preventing fraud in your dealership, you are protecting yourself. The process that we profess, and I know, other providers push that same logic. Definitely don't go with the hardware-based solutions. Go with a software-based, app-based, solution that doesn't take the driver's license away from the consumer into a dark room or anything like that. You want the custody to be still with the customer, but that also protects against cyber and FTC issues. And so what I'm hoping everybody hears from this is that preventing fraud isn't just about preventing fraud. It's a 1 + 1 = 3. You can protect yourself from cyber and you can protect yourself from the FTC. And I think anybody that was a CDK customer last year can talk about, on top of that, the damages that occur over and above that from having your business shut down when a cyber attack happens. And so, hopefully everybody's getting that message that, hey, there's lots of different reasons to fight fraud other than, losing a car. I think a lot of people are like, well, maybe I'll just lose a car every now and then. No big deal. They'll accept the fraud rate in the industry of 2 to 3%. Well, of that exposure, what's the other exposure? Maybe the car didn't get stolen, but maybe you inappropriately handled the data, right? And
Right.
then that comes up in a different way from a different kind of fraudster in the Eastern Bloc, right? And then the FTC becomes aware of it also, and then they hold you accountable that way. So it's a circular issue, and I'm just trying to bring this full circle. And so I think, not to belabor the point, but Karl has a solution that helps solve for that problem, complementary with some of the solutions that we see on our side of the fraud industry. And so hopefully everybody would be encouraged by watching this to not be afraid of the issue, but understand you don't have to have a totally separate tool to do it. You just need to have the right tool that when you're talking about how you want to prevent fraud, I would make sure you ask the question, okay, how does this protect me from cyber, and how does this protect me from the FTC? And make sure you've got that in your playbook, so that when you're looking back, you can sleep at night.
Yeah, and Rudy, I think one of the big challenges for dealerships is definitely process, right? Because if you've got the right process in place to ensure that certain things, check marks, this or that, whatever happen, you still have humans in the loop, and you're going to have human error. It's a guarantee, right? Anytime you have humans in the loop, I'm not saying go replace all your sales staff with AI, because people still want to talk to human beings as well. But the point is that you can have processes in place, but also when you start looking at tech and your process, you have to, and I would say this is probably the biggest part where we see failure, and this is even on banks as well, is what are you forcing your employees and your customers to endure with your process and the tech that you've adopted? And if you go and try and buy a car from your own dealership and you're frustrated with the process, that means your customers are going to be frustrated and your salespeople are going to be frustrated. And what do good salespeople do when there's friction or hurdles in their way?
They jump over them and sell the car.
Correct. And they say, forget this. I just want to sell the car. And that's when you see that's where you see, you know what, Susan, I know you don't have a scanner. Just text me the damn document. Take a picture of it and text it to me. We'll deal with it. Hey, you know what? I know. Let me just sign this for you. I know that you have a hard time. No, so you get really good motivated people that want that close the deal at the end of the month. They want that paycheck. They may not have ill intentions anywhere, but they're jumping through hoops to get that deal done, and they're taking shortcuts. And this is not unique to automotive,
right?
The reason we have banking clients who are banking clients is because a lot of them have had issues where their secure email that they're using or this or whatever, their salespeople were like, screw that. My customers won't use it. We get drop off. They get frustrated. So it's not unique to any one specific industry, but I will tell you that especially as the dealership now is looking more and more into cybersecurity, they're talking to their MSPs, which is great. They're talking to their IT consultants and this or whatever. All of that's great. But the reality of it is it the right tools for your process, and will your people actually use it?
Yeah.
And that's probably one thing that we try and harp on so much with dealerships, because we see it in banking and sometimes they don't believe us. And we're like, no. And we'll follow up with them. Said, you selected this. This is why your people won't use it. And it's not trying to throw other tools under the bus, but we know exactly why salespeople don't use things, and we'll follow back up with dealerships 2, 3 months, 4 months, and they say, yeah, we're not using it. And we said, we're not going to say we told you so, but I would say that's probably my strongest thing for dealerships is actually sit down and think about how the decisions you're making for tech or process, etc., is in reality and practice is much different than theoretical. And when your team is actually utilizing and closing deals, if they're not following the process or not utilizing the tools that you've put in place, it may be a problem that you just need to fix with your people, but it also may be the tools that you picked are too cumbersome to work within your process. So that's one of my biggest pushes to dealerships now, is to really think about your process and the tools that you're adopting.
Great. Okay, so at this point, I think we're pretty much towards the end. I mean, I think just to put a bow on this, when you're trying to fight fraud, there's three legs of the stool, right? There's the actual asset collateral loss that you're fighting against, and the consumer and your reputation with the consumer. There's the cyber, which can shut your business down, cost you a whole bunch of money and lost operations, paying ransoms, etc. And then the FTC is coming after you as well. But you can accomplish a solution to potentially all three of those things if you have the right process in mind from the beginning. So think about the user experience, and I think you can fix a lot of problems, and the consumer has a better experience in the process. So I'm going to open up for questions real quick, just for a few. And I think we had a couple in the chat. One of them was about a football game. I won't comment on that because I actually.
Wait, where's the chat? I haven't even seen the chat yet.
They'll pop it up on screen. What was the last question? So, Karl, what would you suggest dealerships do to become more compliant, knowledgeable, and compliant with FTC rules?
All right. Well, hold on. Can I answer another question, because I just saw James's
comment?
Yes,
you can answer. Now, full disclosure, I have a member of my board who was a West Point grad, so just be careful.
You do? Okay. Is this that person?
No, different person, but he's trying to poke the bear.
All right. So so since we talked about Air Force, so this is from James. So James, I want to tell you that so I haven't looked up. I don't know if you are an Army guy or not, but in '96, yes, 96. I was on the team in the '90s. So in '96, Air Force did lose to Army and Navy that year. That was my junior year. But '96, Notre Dame, Air Force at Notre Dame. November of '96, we beat Notre Dame in overtime. They were 8th in the nation. So
wow, yeah.
Even though that was a challenging year, we lost the Commander-in-Chief's trophy that year. Go Navy. All right. So I know we got a Navy guy. Yes, we had some. Navy's got a good team this year.
Actually, he's a Notre Dame guy.
He is. Oh, yeah. Even better.
Yeah,
I like this. So yes, so probably my most memorable game was playing in South Bend, beating Notre Dame when they were 8th in the nation. Lou Holtz us last year, so James would love to connect with you. But go Air Force. At least we can both agree on beat Navy, or sorry, beat Army tomorrow. So so good stuff. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but I think Air Force comes out on top tomorrow.
Awesome. I'll be watching. We need to make sure there's lots of secure handoffs. No pun intended.
Right. Absolutely.
So we did have a work question. What's the best place? Hey, I'm freaking out now. Rudy scared the shit out of me with this math scope. Bad word.
Yeah.
But where do we go to talk more about, getting more knowledgeable at FTC rules? Because every dealer should be thinking about this.
Yeah, they should. So the NADA, if you're an NADA member, they have a lot of free material. I suggest trying to get in and read through the material there. There's basically 16 points to the FTC safeguards. But I would also suggest, this is from Lisa, I'm a big fan of always trying to work with people smarter than me. So if you don't currently have a compliance company, there are many out there. Some of the MSPs are also, the managed service providers who you buy your tech through are kind of stepping up there. Not to, push any one specific brand, but KPA is we actually partner with them on a lot of stuff. But there are compliance companies out there that will absolutely step in and help you make sure that you're crossing all the T's, dotting all your I's.
Yeah, there's a couple of big compliance companies out there. I would say Mosaic.
Yep,
Mosaic
another one.
is big, and then KPA is another known commodity. And then outside of that, you're kind of going more regional.
Yep.
And a lot of the F&I companies will just defer to the compliance companies. So good call out. I would encourage everybody to click that link and take this very seriously. I think we're gonna round this out unless there's any other questions, and then let everybody get back to their Freaky Friday and have a safe and happy Halloween. Not often does Halloween come on a Friday night, so I have a feeling we're going to be up late. But enjoy that with your families, and let's look forward to November. We had a weird month in October. No more EV credits. Government shutdown. We're still doing okay. We're still doing okay. I'm excited about November and December, and I think we can go crush it. Let's just make sure we're doing it securely and compliantly at the same time. So,
that's right.
I'll sign off. Everybody, be a maverick.